Welcome to this video about 3 easy weekday soups for one. I'm a lover of soup and I eat it almost every day for lunch. I will not be providing exact recipes in this video because the intention is to inspire you to cook intuitively using ingredients you already have in your fridge and pantry. Let's chat about greens. My favorite soup green is escarole, followed closely by rapini, which is called broccoli rabe in the US. Escarole is commonly used in Italian cooking. It's a lettuce that breaks down beautifully in broth and has a soft and silky texture. It's mild in flavor and pairs well with whisked egg and any type of broth or stock. I find it to be a comforting green. Chop it roughly and add it to your soup right at the end, then stir well to wilt the greens. It takes about 2 to 3 minutes to cook. If you add it to the soup earlier, it will turn to mush. For this egg drop soup, I use gluten-free pasta as that's what I had available in my pantry. I generally make the soup with a traditional wheat pasta like acini di pepe, which are the small dots, or angel hair, which are long, thin strands. However, I prioritize using whatever is already in my pantry for my lunch soups as opposed to buying new ingredients to satisfy a whim or craving. We can get very hung up on making recipes to the T when, in reality, soup is a forgiving medium for cooking and should be made from the heart. Every recipe started out as someone else's delicious intuition. There are some key principles involved in making soup like I do. First, you need a good flavor base, whether that is browned garlic, sautéed onion, sun-dried tomato, sautéed veggies, seaweed, or really any other flavoring that packs a punch and will add depth to the soup. Secondly, you need a starch. This could be rice, pasta, gluten-free noodles, potatoes, quinoa, or any other starch that you prefer. Third, you need something green. This can be herbs or leafy greens, like the escarole I used in this first recipe, or another veggie such as asparagus or zucchini. Fourth, you need a source of protein such as egg, meat, beans, seeds, or whatever protein you like to eat for lunch. To save time, you can use leftover cooked meat, such as roasted chicken from the night before. And finally, you need a good broth. You'll notice that in this video, I use homemade chicken broth. I batch cook it once a week and store it in an airtight jar in the fridge for up to 3 days. You will notice that my chicken broth is very thick and opaque as I boil the chicken bones down until all that good collagen had been extracted. Once it hits the cold of the fridge, it becomes jiggly and slightly thickened, the sign of a good broth. Okay, back to greens. Rapini is my other favorite soup green because it is so richly flavored and intensely colored. Rapini can be a bit more tough, so I chop it up into very small pieces to make the texture more appropriate for soup. Since it has such a strong flavor, I balanced it with garlic and pungent sun-dried tomatoes. I used passata, which is the Italian term for strained tomato puree, to create a thick and silky broth with a bit of acidity. The texture of this soup felt like a good match for white quinoa, which I eat a lot of. I know quinoa had its moment half a decade ago, but I never let go of it. I just love it. We can't forget about how soups are finished and garnished, and in this case, I drizzled some olive oil on top and added an abundance of freshly ground black pepper. The final soup I made was at the end of the week when ingredient pickings were slim. I had started thinking about my lunch early that morning, and I had the foresight to throw in a quick broth of carrot, celery, and onion after making my coffee. I let it simmer, drawing flavor and nutrients out of the veggies while I worked that morning. By noon, it was a good enough broth for lunch. I had a few spears of asparagus and some uncooked strips of bacon in the fridge, so I thought a creamy potato bacon soup was in order. When cooking for oneself, everything does not have to be picture perfect. I didn't feel like cleaning my blender, so I simply mashed the potatoes with a fork, allowing some chunks to remain, instead of pureeing until smooth. I like creamy or rich soups to always have some acidity, so I added a squeeze of fresh lemon juice at the end, Not bad for a fridge clean-out meal. When you narrow soup down to its basic elements of a base, a starch, a green, a protein, and a broth, you can make soup out of nearly anything. You don't need to drag out the cumbersome stock pot. You'll notice I used just a small pot to make my personal portion of soup. Each of the 3 recipes was ready in 20 to 30 minutes, allowing me a nice break from work without taking up my whole afternoon. I hope this video has inspired you to cook intuitively and to try out some simple soup recipes for yourself. Of the 3, which soup looked most delicious to you?